Welcome to the second episode of TMHA's Video Capital Connection. In this episode, I want to address two of the recent events that occurred this legislative session. First being the governor's release of the budget, and second being the House and committee assignments. First, going to the governor's budget. The governor released on Wednesday, February 9th, his recommendations to the legislature and made public on what the state should do as far as their tough budget decisions. Now, of interest of this is the governor came out and laid out consolidations of specific state agencies. Within these consolidations, he estimates saving the state basically about $470 million a year. Now, of particular interest to us in our industry is that unlike in House Bill 1, which is the House version of the budget, or Senate Bill 1, which is the Senate version of the budget, the governor's budget specifically looks at the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. In his consolidation recommendation, the governor pinpoints TDHCA and says that if we implement what he's recommending, that the state will save $12.2 million a year. And on a second item, he says that if you move certain agencies and consolidate them within the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, you're going to save an additional $2.9 million. So that total combined is about $15.1 million. Now, this is very early stage budget recommendations, have a long way to go, so these are far from being done. However, the details of his budget as to what elements of TDHCA would go where specifically aren't disclosed. However, on page 4 of his budget, he did outline in a full list of bullet points some specific points. And on the third bullet point, as you'll see, the governor recommends that his consolidation of the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs and its functions into 1, the State Affordable Housing Corporation, 2, the Public Utility Commission, and 3, the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. He says that additionally the state should transfer $4 million from veterans housing programs to the Veterans Land Board, and this gets him to his $2.2 million general revenue additions based off those reductions. Now that's critically important because that is the only bullet section that mentions TDLR or TDHCA. So one could probably easily assume that the reductions that he identifies in the TDLR and TDHCA are intertwined. Now again, this is far from being a done deal. Matter of fact, very far away from being a done deal. But I want to bring this to light for all TMHA members just because everyone needs to know that if this does eventually come to fruition or comes to fruition in some different manner, whereas the Department of TDHCA is somehow splintered or broken up and sent to different other state agencies, it will have a profound impact not only on TDHCA, not only Manufactured Housing Division within TDHCA and all of their personnel, but also on our industry. Okay, that's the highlights of the governor's budget. I want to shift gears now into committee assignments. We already knew Senate committee assignments, but this week the Speaker of the House released his House committee assignments. So now we know the composition of both House and Senate committee members. Real quick on a background, committees are so important because they are the first layer, the first filter that all bills must go through. Doesn't matter if it's budget, if it's industry, if it's consumer protection, all bills, sunset bills, all bills have to start off going through a committee. And it's also by far and away not a foregone conclusion that all bills that go to committees are referred out of committees. As a matter of fact, the opposite's true. Most bills end up dying in committee. That's why it's so very important to know the composition and the members of these committees. Now, I could spend probably an hour and a half or longer going through all of the different committees and breaking them down as far as all of their membership categories. But for the sake of time, I just want to focus on a handful of select committees that most of our issues that we deal with on a session-by-session basis come up. So getting started, I'm going to start over on the House side. On the House side, probably the most important committee, because that's where manufactured housing bills have gone the last several consecutive sessions, is the Committee on Licensing Administrative Procedures. Now, we were thrilled to see that long-term TMHA and industry advocate or supporter, Representative Chairman now, but Representative Mike Hamilton was named Chair of Licensing Administrative Procedures. If you remember, Chairman Hamilton in '09 was actually the bill sponsor of TMHA's industry bill. So we are thrilled to see that he got his chairmanship. Also remaining on the LAP committee from back in '09 is TMHA supporter Jose Menendez. For those that were at convention, remember that he spoke at our board of directors meeting in San Antonio. So in addition to all the other good members on LAP, we're very pleased to see those two members on that committee, that very critical committee. Now, another important committee that we see lots of issues go through, primarily landlord-tenant type issues, community-related issues, some lien perfection and business and commerce code issues, is the House Business and Industry Committee. Now, this is still chaired by Chairman Joe Deshotel. And it's got, and we're thrilled to see the composition of this committee, and we will continue to watch and monitor it as bills are referred to it, in particular to the ones that will have a direct impact on our industry, just as we have in the past. Now, the third committee I want to bring up on the House side is the House Pension Investments and Financial Services. Now, this committee came to our focus and spotlight as recently as last session, and the reason for that is SAFE Act. SAFE Act bill in '09 and all future SAFE Act bills on the House side will go through this committee. And remaining as the chair of this committee is Chairwoman Vicki Truitt. So we're glad to see her come back, as well as some other additions to this committee, Brandon Creighton and Doc Anderson, two in particular, that we were very pleased to see get on this very critical pension and investment committee, because we do anticipate there being SAFE Act legislation this session, and it will go through and start off in this committee. So that's a couple of the highlights on the House side. I want to switch over to the Senate side. Now, the Senate obviously being bigger, being smaller in number, so the committees take on a wider range of issues. The really predominant committee of our focus for our industry is the Senate Business and Commerce Committee. That's where all manufactured housing, all modular housing, all SAFE Act, all those types of bills all go through Senate B and C. Now, we were very thrilled to see that John Corona was recently put on as the chair of Senate B and C. He's been a longtime supporter and advocate for the industry. So we're thrilled to see him as chair on B and C. Additionally, remaining on B and C is Senator Kevin Eltife, who, if you recall, in '09 was the Senate sponsor of TMHA's legislation. So that'll be a key committee. We'll be working and looking at that committee throughout the legislative process, not just those not just the chair, not just Senator Eltife, but everyone on Senate B and C as we move forward. Now, while Senate B and C is probably the most critical of all of the committees, there are other Senate committees that are also important. The Senate Finance, obviously, because that's where all the budget issues go to. Senate Transportation and Homeland Security, that's where all transportation issues, including bills like heavyweight permits to transport and move manufactured and modular homes, and any kind of increased fees or potential with that would all go through Senate Transportation and Homeland Security, as well as government relations, IGR, or intergovernment relations, IGR, which is where county authority bills, trying to do county authority increased land use bills, and other types of bills will go through. So we will obviously be watching all of these various committees as we do, but that's just to give you kind of a highlight of some of the key committees that we'll be watching and working this session. As well as I want to encourage everyone to look at the composition of the members on these various committees and check to see if you're a constituent of these people, of these members, because moving forward in the next coming months, we will be reaching out and going and working with these members and their staff and the committee staff to advocate on behalf of our issues. And as I started off talking about with the governor's budget, as well as things like sunset, things like SAFE Act, as well as industry protection bills, we will be working quite intensely with with many of these committees, and we could use all the support that our membership, our TMHA membership, can provide us on a constituent basis, hearing from their constituencies rather in addition to hearing just from us and our lobby team here at TMHA. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode 2. Please continue to send us your thoughts and comments. We appreciate them from last time. I hope, as one of the comments came in last time, was to try to make things a bit quicker, a bit briefer. So that's what I've tried to accomplish on this episode 2 post. So with that, I'll end by saying thank you and God bless Texas.